Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Office Podcast. I am your host, Hassan. My apologies, it has been a very long time. It's been a few months actually since I did one of these. Went on a little bit of a hiatus, just wanted to kind of realign things in life, and I came back to thinking about this podcast often. So it was only right that I brought the series back. I've missed it dearly, even though it was only a few episodes. But I have missed it, and some of the responses I'm getting online, on TikTok, on Instagram, and the reception I'm getting, people also like this series, so it's only right that I bring it back. And today's episode and the topic of today is going to be about all of the intros that we love from the show. So I'm going to list through. For some reason, the internet only has a top 9, even though the category says top 10, but it is what it is. I'm going to just go through the internet's top 9 intros of the show. For me, these intros serve as a separate entity. And what I mean by that is a lot of the intros have nothing to do with the actual episode. So the first episode I can think of off the top of my head is the one where Stanley has a heart attack in an intro. And then obviously the rest of the episode is then the stress management episode, I think it's called. But all of the others, if you really think about it, have no real connection to the main episode, which I think the show does really well. It's like an episode within an episode, or a scenario within a scenario. So I thought I would go through the top 9 of what the internet thinks are the best, and let's see whether we agree with it or not. I'd love to hear some of your opinions and your comments in the comment section below. Don't forget to like and subscribe as well if you enjoy this channel. As I said, the uploads have been inconsistent, and I think it did get to a point where I didn't know whether I wanted to do this again or not. But as I said, the last few months I've been thinking on many occasions about this channel and this podcast, and it's only right that I bring it back, and I think it is going to be for the foreseeable future. So let's get straight into it without further ado. Episode number 9, what people have voted as episode number 9 is the episode where Kevin Malone, our old friend, is the receptionist, and I believe this is the episode where Pam quits her job following Michael into the Michael Scott Paper Company, and this is where Kevin is trying to figure out how to be an effective receptionist, where he's not able to switch the calls properly, get them to the right person. And for me, I'm not sure if this was one of the funniest or even top 10 funniest. I think because it was Kevin, I did really enjoy it. But I'm not sure that I would rate this probably in a top 10. I think something similar to this would probably be, I want to say parkour, but I know that's going to be one of the sort of best episodes on this list. I already know, I have a feeling that parkour is going to be on here, but I would say that parkour is probably funnier. Another intro that's really funny is probably when Toby comes back to the office and Michael doesn't know. But again, that may be on this list. But let's carry on down the list. So I'd probably give this intro maybe a 3 out of 5. And that's being generous, I think. I don't think it's anything too special. The next episode on this list is the Dwight Watermelon Baby and the baby shower. So this is obviously when Michael thinks that Jan is coming into the office for a baby shower. And in this episode, we find that she's actually had the baby. Again, I wouldn't put this up as the top 10 funniest intros of The Office. This is probably one of the sillier ones. The whole show is silly, let's be honest. But I think for me, the show, or this intro specifically, probably isn't the funniest. Again, I can think back to one of the intros where Michael is pretending to be, is it Judi Dench from The Devil Wears Prada? It's not Judi Dench, is it? What's her name? It's completely gone out of my mind. You know who I'm on about. The Devil Wears Prada, that intro. I think that was probably funnier than the Watermelon Baby one. Um, yeah, again, it is a bit of an odd one, so I'd probably give this maybe what a three out of five. Again, wasn't extremely funny. Faxes from Dwight in the future, branch closing. So this is the episode intro where Jim is sending Dwight faxes from himself from the future. This was a funny one. This tickled me a little bit, I think. I think for Jim to come up with something like that was pure genius. And the way he smacks the coffee out of Stanley's hand, and the fact that Stanley didn't smack him, was extremely funny. So I think this is definitely, I would definitely put this in a top 10 of intros. I think it was a very, very good narrative, very, very funny, and it's a very Jim thing to do to Dwight. So this gets my vote, I think. I think this is probably like a 4 out of 5 in terms of funniness, in terms of intro. Can I think of any funnier ones? Like I said, as we go down the list, I will try and recall some. Again, there's been so many. I think literally every single episode has an intro, I believe, to my knowledge. So yeah, no, I really, really enjoyed this one. A very, very good one. Jim dresses as Dwight. Product recall episode. Jim dressing as Dwight was hilarious. I think it was one of the best episodes. It was so unexpected, and he actually looked like Dwight. And the irony is here, for a lot of you that don't know, is that Jim was actually meant to be Dwight in a show, and Dwight was meant to be Jim in a show. They auditioned for the opposite parts. So Jim auditioned for Dwight, and Dwight did Jim. And actually, it turned out that the writers wanted Jim to be Jim and Dwight to be Dwight. John Krasinski to be Jim and Rainn Wilson to be Dwight, should I say. I really like this intro. I think the outro is funnier, where Dwight pretends to be Jim and dresses like him, and actually it backfires where he wants to be insulted by everyone. In actual fact, he's receiving compliments. So another strong intro to an episode. Number 5 on the list is Kevin's Chili. Now, I remember watching this like 10 years ago, like back in university. Again, this was when I was very new to The Office. I was getting used to the characters. And when I saw this intro, I can remember exactly what my reaction was, and I was in hysterics. It is one of the best intros out there. The fact that it's number 5 is quite upsetting. It's at least a number 2 or 3 for me. Number 5, I guess that is respectable as well. But this intro has to be the funniest. It's got my favorite character in it, which is Kevin, as most of you will know. But the fact that he is doing what Kevin does and just completely just causing all kinds of chaos, this definitely matches up to the episode where he thinks he's saved the turtle by putting it back together. Again, that was another elite intro to an episode. So I think for me, this is definitely a funny one. It has everything in it. The fact that he's trying to get the chili back in the pot, and the fact that there's a voiceover as well as he's making this mess, which is absolutely hilarious. And, Kevin's famous chili. I wish I could try Kevin's favorite chili one day, or famous chili one day. Probably not off the floor, but yeah, this was a strong intro to an episode. So that's probably I would give this a 4.5 out of 5 for sure. 100%. Michael burns his foot as an intro. Yes, again, another intro that kind of spills over into the episode, which I really enjoyed. Michael burning his foot has got to be one of the funniest things ever. I remember the call that he makes, and then he asks everyone where they are, and then where Ryan is to come and get him. It was a very... the episode was okay. I think that was the one where Dwight has a concussion. That was a good episode. The intro was funny as well. Is it top 4 for me? I don't think so. I don't think it is top 4. I think for me, it's probably not even top 10, if I'm honest. Maybe even top 20. I'm not sure. It's a good episode, and the intro is funny, but there's funnier ones out there. Like I said, Parkour is probably a funnier intro, which I'm hoping again is on the list. We've only got 3 to go. Roy attacks Jim. For some reason I thought that was the end of an episode, but it's not. Apparently it's the intro. Jim yeah, I think that was very, very unexpected. I think for me, yeah, the way that Dwight responds is hilarious. And I think the overall episode and the tone that it sets in that episode as well, again, spills over into the episode, which is really good. Is it a top 3 for me? I don't think so. Maybe top 10. I do like it. I do enjoy it. And I know, Michael burning his foot is least funnier than Roy attacking Jim. I think the intro is funny because of the way that everyone reacts and the way that Dwight, is so instinctive and so Dwight in that moment. Probably a 3 out of 5 for me. The lip sync dub, the nepotism episode. I remember watching season 7 when it started, and I don't know the trend. I think this might have been an American trend, so I didn't really catch on to it and the relevance and whatnot of it. Maybe it was a big thing back in 2000 and whatever this episode came out. I guess it was different. I think that's what I liked about it. Not that it was funny or very entertaining, but I think it was because it was different. I think the planking episode intro is probably funnier than this one. And the reason I say that is because the planking one, you've got Dwight going around and just telling everyone to snap out of it and fire extinguishing Meredith off the bathroom or whatever it was. So the lip sync one was a little bit of an odd one. I think it was, again, a trend that I didn't understand that went completely over my head. Again, must have been an American thing. I'm going to give it maybe a 3 out of 10 for me. Last, but certainly not least, is the fire drill stress relief episode. This definitely is one of my favorite intros. Probably top 3 for me, and that is because there's so much going on. There's so much chaos. It's one of the longer intros as well, which I really, really enjoyed about it. I think for me, you have to get it right. You can't have an intro that's too long and there's not a lot going on. So like the KGB one where Dwight keeps slapping Michael and Jim slaps Dwight and all that. Like, that was funny, but it could have been finished in probably 15 more seconds earlier. This one, it was, again, a narrative within narrative within, and it spills over into the episode, which I really enjoyed. Definitely top 3 for me. I'm surprised that parkour isn't on here. And again, Kevin's turtle one would probably be the top 3 for me. But the fire drill, yeah, I would give it a 4.5 out of 5. Again, there's a lot going on in the intro. I think people did enjoy it. I enjoyed it, definitely. And, it set up the episode, Dwight just being Dwight again. And I believe when they go and see David, no, the David Wallace bit is in the episode where Dwight's threatening to be fired. That was funny as well. That whole episode is very, very good. And I think this is what happens on the back of the roast. I think this is when the roast happens, if I remember correctly. Yes, it is. Yeah, so this is the roast episode where everyone roasts Michael. And again, underrated episode. I think a lot of people thought that episode was okay. I really enjoyed that episode. It's one of my favorites. Guys, that is the podcast today. Thank you to everyone for listening to this episode and to previous episodes. As I said, my apologies for taking such a long hiatus. This podcast is definitely something on my radar and something I enjoy doing. I literally watch the The Office every single day, at least one episode every single day. So it's only right that I come through and do this podcast and talk about the episode I've watched that day and just dissect it, and hopefully have some of you lovely people dropping me questions and comments and everything like that, because I know there's millions and millions of people that love this show, and they watch it every day. I know that Billie Eilish, for example, watches the show every single day. I know there's others out there as well that watch this show every single day, and hopefully, the dream is to have the cast on this podcast one day, which would be absolutely amazing. But guys, thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed it, make sure to hit the like button, and if you're listening to it on a podcast app or whatever, make sure to share and just give it a star or whatever. It would really mean a lot to me. I will catch you guys on the next episode. Peace and love. Take care.